This is Ambition Today. Today we are joined by Greg Alterman. He is the founder of MF People, which aims to make life simpler. They're thoughtfully creating the best in-class, gender-neutral, everyday products. This is Ambition Today.
These are the entrepreneurs, creators, investors, and builders who ambitiously change to the world. Explore the hardships and heroisms of everyday life while we reveal the key moments to leave behind a lasting legacy. This is Ambition Today with Kevin Siskar.
What's up, world? I am Kevin Siskar, and you are listening to Ambition Today. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast in your favorite app. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Breaker, Anchor, really anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Big news, for as little as $3, you can now join the show's back channel. This is the Ambition Today A-List, and this is where we share the single greatest piece of advice our guests have ever received. You can check out the A-List at siskar.co/A-List today. In case you missed it, last episode we talked to Alex Batdorf. She's the founder and CEO of Get Shit Done, a YouTube series focused on helping female entrepreneurs. But I'm really excited. Today we are joined by Greg Alterman. He is currently the founder and CEO of MF People, which aims to make simple, everyday products that are gender neutral. And he's previously the founder of Alternative Apparel, a world-class, top-notch, everyday t-shirt company, which we'll learn a little bit more about. So, Greg, welcome to the show. Where are you today?
I am sitting in my bed as we speak. It's the most quiet area in my home. I've got 4 kids downstairs getting ready for school as we speak on the West Coast.
Nice. So you're in LA, right?
I'm in Malibu, actually.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you're in Malibu today. I'm in New York. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how that was.
So I'm a Southern boy. I grew up in Atlanta, GA. I lived there my whole life up until college, when I guess I went to University of Florida, played a little golf on the golf team there. In 1987 is when I left there. I graduated high school in 87.
Were there any entrepreneurial influences growing up? Parents, uncles? Did you do anything?
Oh, yeah, sure. My family was known for being all entrepreneurs, actually. My great-grandfather came over in 1906 or 8. I was trying to find that out yesterday with my dad, and he was unclear. But so he came over from Mince and landed on Ellis Island and started an apple cart in Atlanta, Georgia. He started selling apples on the side of the road, and his oldest son started helping him. This was in the teens, 1909, 1911, up to maybe close to the 20s, in which case they started having a lot of success selling apples on the side of the road, and they named their company Big Apple. Big Apple. To make a very long story short, my grandfather had 6 sons. And those 6 sons helped him build what, at the time in 1980, when they sold the business with 8,000 employees, was the Southeast's largest grocery store chain, called Big Apple and Food Giant. Food Giant, they sold out to the Del Hayes Corporation, but I skipped a lot, but they quickly went from being an apple cart on the side of the road to, what you see today is sort of like a giant supermarket, like a Whole Foods or something, which was ahead of its time back then. They really didn't have, huge supermarkets. But in succession, each son in their, by order of age, served as CEO of that company, of which my grandfather was the youngest of the 6 brothers, and he was the last to be CEO. And after his term, they sold the company in 1980. So I think it was 60 years of building that business in the Southeast. They were the largest supermarket chain in the Southeast. So it was pretty cool to have grown up and seen a lot of that. I was about 11, 12 years old then.
Yeah.
And my dad worked for that company. My uncle worked for that. It was a family business. Everybody worked for the company.
How do you think that affects the culture of a family, right? Because honestly, time and time again, what we see is on the show is, successful founders had some sort of influence early on. What do you think it is that makes, your family different than other families from the way you tick and the way that you grew up and you just became an entrepreneur?
Well, I did see my father step away from that business when I was about 10, as he was sort of smelling that the writing was on the wall. They were going to sell the company. He decided to go out and start his own restaurant chain, which became pretty successful. I think he opened about 9 or 10 restaurants under the name Round the Corner. And it was like a gourmet hamburger. You would pick up a telephone and order a cheeseburger, fry, and a shake, and on the telephone at your booth, and then go pick it up. So I watched that. I watched him build those stores, and I watched a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And during that time, I guess when you're starting businesses, he was always telling me, "Hey, you're going to have to go make your own money." So I ended up, mowing lawns in the neighborhoods. I think I started when I was like 12 or 13, mowing lawns, washing cars, lemonade stands. I used to deal baseball cards. I was a dealer where you'd go to the baseball card convention and I'd be the guy selling them behind the booth. This was in like 1983, 4, 5 kind of period. And so I was always finding, little ways to make some cash. My least proud cash moment was my time where I was making fake IDs. I actually did that for about 2 years, from the age of 15 to about 17, and that was my biggest revenue.
I can imagine
increase. But my dad caught me and was very quickly to. I've never seen him like this. This was when he found out. First of all, I had a line out the door for like 2 years that I can't believe he didn't notice, but he was off golfing or working or something. And my mother just thought I was taking pictures of my friends. So,
you're lucky. You're lucky you got caught when you did. We actually had a guy in my high school that did it, and the feds caught him. So you're lucky it was just your dad.
They were good. They were really good ones. And not only that, I gave 2. So it was 2 for $50. I got a laminating machine from Blockbuster Video, and the guy from Blockbuster, I made him a deal behind the counter that I'd give him one if he gave me the laminating machine that was inside Blockbuster Video. So I guess there was thievery. I guess thievery was involved too. That's the one thing I've been involved with stealing in my life.
Yeah, well, that's a great story. So you then went on to the University of Florida. Tell us a little about your time there. I heard you had a pizza job at one point. What happens next?
So I go to University of Florida on a golf scholarship. I was going to go to Georgia because that's where all my friends were going, and I was recruited there. But decided on Florida, sunny Florida, play golf every day, every day of the year. And I guess, we ended up with this really incredible golf team. I mean, we were, I think, in the top ranked teams in the country, but my team specifically ended up with, and I didn't know it at the time, we ended up with every single player in our top, players won PGA Tour events. So I didn't know that at the time, and I was riding the bench a little bit there. I wasn't one of the better players, and so I ended up quitting the team and during my sophomore season, and I wanted to be a regular college student. But when I did, my dad was like, "Well, hey, you're off scholarship, and I'm having some, highs and lows with the business. You're kind of on your own unless you want to go to Georgia." So I was like, all right, I'll stay. I'll see what I can do. I'll get a job. So I started working in this pizza this pizza restaurant. It was a really hot spot with the locals, and they had bands coming in, and they served really good food. And so I started there, and I was bussing tables, and I was getting along, and there were hot chicks in there and whatever. and the manager, was kind of he just wasn't a good guy. He was very kind of a control freak, a very authoritative, figure in the sense that he talked down to you, kind of thing.
And that always works really well with entrepreneurial minded people underneath you.
If he had just been a cool guy, I would have been fine bussing tables, and I really was, enjoying it. But when I remember one time he told me to take the trash out, and he used a tone that was like, that motherfucker, did he just say that to me like that? And so I started to take the trash out, and when I came back in, he was like sitting in the door ready to like discipline me for something. And this was like 2 or 3 days in, and I wasn't doing anything that really required that much discipline, heart-to-heart talking, right? So I looked at him, and I'm like, this isn't working out, is it? And he's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, and I gave him my apron, and I said, okay, and walked out of the place. And that was the only time I've ever worked for anyone else. I think it was a matter of 2 or 3 days that I lasted on that position. And right after that, literally within days, I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? So I started drawing on a piece of paper. I started drawing this idea that I had for a T-shirt, and the drawing involved. I had seen the idea somewhere else actually, and it said, "College is full of difficult decisions," and the decisions were Budweiser, Jim Beam. Like all these liquors and, shit that kids drink, right? So I wrote it out in my own kind of writing. I saw it in like a perfect type, and then the logos of each one of those, was the T-shirt I saw, but I did it in a different way. And so it looked like a hand drawing. In fact, as a matter of fact, I have one, I think, in my closet. I could probably go get it. But what I did was, I took that drawing, which ended up being a pretty cool, like collage kind of a drawing, and I took it to all the local establishments in my college town, and I asked them to donate $100 to put their logo on the back of the T-shirt. Well, I got like 30 people to do it. Nice. So I had like $3,000 to buy the T-shirts that I was then going to sell for $10 a piece. So they were free, basically. I mean, they probably cost me about $3 or $4 a piece. So I was able to buy like 1,000 T-shirts, and then turn around and sell them for $10 a piece. And I sold them like in a day. I swear, I put them. It was longer than that, but it seemed like it was. They just flew off the shelf. My college roommate and I went through the dorms with a duffel bag, and we would just knock on door to door. And before everybody realized they had bought the same T-shirt, I had sold 1,000 T-shirts for $10 a piece, and it was 11 if you gave me a check. Check charge, potential bouncing coverage.
I'm just picturing everybody on campus the next day realizing they're wearing the same shirt. Well,
everybody had the shirt. So and then at the bottom, I put my little GAG, Greg Alterman gear. At the bottom, and so that was the first T-shirt. The next one was Gatormeister instead of Jägermeister. We used to drink Jägermeister on campus, but I ended up putting the gator head instead of the deer head on the bottle, and came up with a whole University of Florida, bottle stuff, orange and blue flavor added, and whatever. It was just a bunch of University of Florida jargon, and so that turned into a T-shirt business. By the time I graduated, I had 8 employees. I had probably close to, I don't know, at least a $500,000 business in college. My dad was like, keep doing that. Like I was like, Dad, what am I going to do? I'm graduating college. I don't really want to go to work for somebody. He's like, keep doing that. So I kept doing that. I moved to Atlanta. I took my knowledge of, building T-shirts and knowing how to manufacture a shirt and print, and I started going to corporate America and getting them to buy some of these T-shirts that I was at the time using Fruit of the Loom, Oneida, Champion, Hanes. I was using all these brands. I never liked the shirt I was using. I was always kind of searching for something a little better, a little softer, a little less boxy, cut more like what you might see in the 70s or something like that. And it dawned on me that, I'm selling enough T-shirts and I'm a good enough salesman. I can make my own shirts the way I like them and sell those shirts with a print on them to the corporate people. And so I started making my own shirts, and, I would still sell the Hanes because those were like $1 a piece, but my shirts cost me like $2 or $3 to make. And I quickly realized that people would pay a little bit more for a better promotional T-shirt that they would actually wear and get the promotion out of that T-shirt, as opposed to giving a T-shirt away in a gift bag and somebody never wearing it again. So this was 1995, was when I started, making these T-shirts, and they were butter soft. Yeah. I mean, they were what you see today. They really haven't changed, from what I am still selling today. I was the first soft T-shirt blank distributor in the country. Even before American Apparel, we were the first AA, alternative apparel. And American Apparel quickly came on the scene shortly thereafter. And we ended up obviously kind of in a Coke, kind of a Pepsi, competitive format. Everybody kind of thought I was Dove. We're both of the same age. We're both Jewish. We're both in the T-shirt business.
Dove's the founder of the other one, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
He was the founder, the founder of American Apparel. Sort of with different reputation. Yeah. I guess you would say. But we remained, I guess, friendly competitors. We never really copied each other. He was known for sort of a crispy white T-shirt, and I was known for sort of a soft, lived-in, buttery T-shirt. Mine was washed and weathered. His was brand new and crispy and clean. So we sort of stayed out of each other's way, I guess you would say.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things about your story is just nowadays with tech companies, a lot of founders think that they need this thing, and they need a technical co-founder. They need, fundraising. They need all these things to get going. And what I love about your story is it's just 30 years of hustle and grit, right? Like there is no, I needed to write some code to like build this thing out, or, it was just, we made the T-shirts, and, then now we sold them. And it's like, I love how raw it's really bootstrapping at its finest. Yeah. I mean, we would, I remember I moved into an apartment after college, and I had some cash, from college, having been through, what I went through. I don't know. I might have had $10,000 or something like that. And I got an apartment. I put my bed on the floor, and I opened a phone book, and I started calling on people. I started calling on restaurants and bars and nonprofit organizations and anybody I could think of that needed T-shirts, and I would go see them. I would drive in my car and meet them face to face, and give them my card. And at that time, I didn't have a cell phone. I had a beeper, and cell phones came on the scene way later. I didn't have a computer. I had a roll-up fax machine, and
I would tell them, if they need anything, beat me. I'll call you back. And I saw enough people and got the word out to enough people that needed T-shirts that people would use me for T-shirts from anything from like bar mitzvah parties to, local 10K road races and everything in between. And I just made sure that I did a good job and delivered on time. And, it spread quickly to the sense that, people would call me the T-shirt guy around town. And, it became, I was very focused. A lot of people in the T-shirt business, they do other things. They do coffee mugs and koozies and keychains and, pens with your logo. And, I just said, fuck it. I want to be a T-shirt. I'm going to be known for T-shirts. And I stuck with it. And, that particular decision, I think, ended up being, to stay focused in what you're doing and become great at something as opposed to good at a lot of things. Yeah. Really great at making T-shirts. And so we were garment manufacturing specialists by the time, I guess 30 years later, it became something that was, we were experts at what we did. And as opposed to being just an average, we can do everything with your logo on it. It quickly, gagwear, which I guess it became gagwear, not gag. Gagwear sort of spun off, and this blank T-shirt thing that we were doing ended up being its own label, Alternative Apparel. In which case we started selling the blank T-shirts to our competitors. It became, we were peppering them around town, and the competition started calling, and we were like, what the hell are we going to do now? We've got our label gag in these T-shirts. We can't sell them with our label in them because everybody's just going to go around whoever we sold them to and want to come directly to us. So we renamed it Alternative, and that Alternative became the blank T-shirt supplier to all of these ad specialty companies and promotional companies, and quickly became its own retail brand.
So really quick on that. So how do you go from buying Hanes, Champion, all that to just getting your own manufacturer? Like, did you have to go to China? What was that?
So at first there was a domestic manufacturer here that I met in Los Angeles that was making stuff for Armani. He was making stuff for Guess. He was making stuff for a lot of the top retailers at the time that were doing sort of a better quality T-shirt. And he showed me this shirt that he was making specifically for Armani that I was like, yes, that is the shirt that I want. That that's the cotton. Let me tweak the cut a little bit. And he was in LA. And so I would come out to LA all the time, even for a month at a time, to work with him on the manufacturing of this shirt, in which case I got to where I was doing enough of them to be able to go offshore to bring in container loads at a time. And I guess starting here domestically with, a few thousand of this and a few thousand of that turned into 60,000 of this, 60,000 of that, which turned into several container loads, coming in at a time on a specific T-shirt. Now, when you spread yourself out too thin and you have too many styles and too many colors, that's when you start getting into problems. So I stuck to something pretty simple, just a blank T-shirt, white, black, and gray for a little while. Adding a color or two, you end up with 20% of your inventory is yellow, and you don't sell that much yellow. So it's just, you got to be careful with how you spread out your purchasing. Yeah.
So we're gonna take a quick break, but when we get back, I want to finish up on the Alternative Apparel. You guys were acquired, bought. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll be right back with Greg Alterman from MF People.
This is Ambition Today.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Ambition Today. If you're interested in learning more about our guests, the greatest piece of advice they've ever received, then be sure to join the Ambition Today A-list for as little as $3. Ambition Today is also happy to partner with WeWork, a co-working space that lets you do what you love. WeWork has offices in 140 locations around the world, and many of our portfolio founders use them here in New York. If you are interested in getting a WeWork desk, you can visit siskar.co/WeWork to learn more today. and Audible. Visit audibletrial.com/ambition today to download and keep any audiobook for free. Greg, we were talking about fashion. I actually just finished Shoe Dog on Audible, which I loved. I'm now reading Flash Boys by Michael Lewis. Have you read Shoe Dog?
I have not.
You would love it because it parallels your story in a lot of ways, just with shoes. It's the story of the Nike founder. It's his autobiography, and it's a really, really good book. So I would highly recommend it to anyone out there listening. If you want to download it for free, you can go to audibletrial.com/ambition today to download and keep any book for free. And now back to this amazing episode of Ambition Today.
Visit Ambition Today online at Siskar.co and follow the show on social media at Ambition Today.
Welcome back. We are here with Greg Alterman, and before the break, we were talking about alternative apparel. Greg, so you've built this company, 30 years of hustle, which I love. I love just how raw, bootstrapped this is. What happens? I know that you had some talks with Hanes. What is the end result here with alternative apparel?
So 5 years ago, I left the company day to day. I guess at that point we had some private equity investment in the company around 2008 is when it came in, right before the big meltdown in 2008, the market meltdown. And we were able to sell, actually, it was more of a secondary offering. And we were able to take a chip off the table, if you will, and sort of, take some comfort in the fact that we had built a business that had some real value. And so we had some private equity guys come in, take a piece of the company. And, I lasted about 5 years in that scenario. These were really good guys that we partnered with. But it became very difficult for me personally to make, the same decisions I was making for the business. I like to keep it nimble and sort of where you can kind of turn on a dime like a motorboat, and the decision making was more like a big, cruise ship decision making. We couldn't turn as fast as we needed to for the market, conditions that I was used to. I was used to making these decisions fast and turning and changing, and so it became a frustrating spot for me to be, and quite honestly, sort of an unhealthy place for me to be, because I was more creative and needed to be able to express myself in a way that I wasn't able to do in that atmosphere and environment. So I decided it was time for me, after 25 years at that time, to and this was 2012, to say, okay, I'm gonna go off, and I wish everybody luck. I'll be here. I'll serve on the board as chairman of the board, but it's time for me to try something else with my career. In which case, I went out and studied. I was very into juicing and doing yoga, and so there was a cold pressed juice trend happening, and I stepped out with a friend of mine, and we decided, he was also from the apparel world, and we decided to join up and create one of LA's first cold pressed juice concepts, called Juice Served Here. It was a very fashionable approach to juice, normally, known for its granola sort of, I guess, feeling. You walk in a juice bar and it's more of like, patchouli oil, hippies, hairy armpits, and distressed wood. We were the complete opposite. We had more of a Scandinavian type of vibe, super clean and clinical, really tight branding, and so we quickly became sort of LA's premier juice company during the cold press sort of cleansing craze.
Yeah. And,
I've been doing that for the last 5 years, up until recently, where we sort of got a little bit ahead of ourselves, I guess you would say. there a lot happened in between then, but including I had a major health scare. I ended up 3 years ago, exactly 3 years ago. No, not 2 years and 11 months ago, exactly. I was home one morning. I had, at the time, 3 kids. I have 4 kids today. 3 kids. I asked my wife to take one of them to school because I had a headache. Well, she was like, yeah, right. You know, you're just trying to get out of the school ride. I was like, no, I need to lie down. So this was about 8 a.m. in the morning. By 8:30, I was reaching for the telephone. I was by myself at the house. I called 911 because I did not know what was wrong with me, but I knew that I'd never felt pain in my head like this. And it turns out that I was actually having a brain hemorrhage. So I was rushed to the hospital, spent 3 weeks in the ICU, and was supposed to have died. I mean, this was like a 75% chance that I was going to die, not only die, but die before I got to the hospital, die. And wow. It ended up that I survived. I was, right in the sense of picking up the phone and dialing 911. And believe me, you know if this is happening to you, you do not feel normal. And I'm here today to talk about it, I guess, which is, I'm very lucky.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're also very humble, right? So you kind of tailed off on the alternative apparel story there, but you sold the company for $60 million after 30 years of hustle, which, I'll just give you a little congratulations there. So that's an amazing story too. So I mean, how does let's tangent on that a little bit now. So I find that the most successful founders that can play the long game take their health very seriously. So what things do you do now? Do you work out a lot? Do you do yoga? Do you run? Do you do anything to keep your mind and body in a good place so that you can succeed as an entrepreneur? Or
I know myself well enough to know that when I get into a project, I really give it my 110%. Yeah, not to the point of like OCD obsession, sort of, but very close to that. I was talking to my wife a couple days ago about I've got this thing going in the backyard where I'm actually building a golf course in my backyard, believe it or not. And I love golf. Yeah. And I've got this. I took down. I had a vineyard in my backyard, which was producing the shittiest wine you've ever tasted. And I thought for a long time, yeah, we'll keep this vineyard. It's cool, No, it's not cool. There's nothing cool about it when you're producing a bad grape on, using up water that you shouldn't be using up on a hillside, and having, a lot of maintenance fees to be able to produce 75 to 100 bottles of wine per season. There's nothing cool about manufacturing shitty wine. So I quickly decided I'm going to take out this vineyard that I've got on this 45-degree sort of steep slope in my backyard. And I noticed when I took it out, I didn't notice this before, but when I took it out, there was this mound that sort of stuck up on the hill, and it resembled, and I live on the ocean here in Malibu with a mountain sort of in the background, ocean, and, down below. It was like the perfect par 3 that just presented itself to me. It's about a 70-yard little golf shot. And it stuck out like, I can't believe I didn't see it before, kind of thing. But once it was like the perfect scenario where you take away the whatever and you're able to really see what you're left with. And in which case I've been working for the last 2 months to get this land sort of shaped in a way that would be receptive to a golf shot. So I'm building like the ultimate par 3 in my backyard, basically.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I've been quite obsessed about it for the last couple of months and working on it every day. And it's going to be it's going to be phenomenal when I get done. But I believe that I've, perhaps even crossed over, the line of, maybe I am a little OCD on this particular project because I'm up doing it. I'm shoveling dirt every day. I'm out in the sun. I'm getting sunburned. It's kind of crazy.
Nice. Well, so let's switch gears here. I want to talk about MF People. So MF People is a genderless everyday product company. You could see clearly after, something like alternative apparel, how this would make a lot of sense for you and your brand and your own expertise. So for those listening, what does MF People stand for? And tell us a little bit about what you're building now with the MF People.
So MF was born and the thought of MF was sort of created when I was sitting at home recovering from my brain hemorrhage. I was very sensitive to all of the clutter around me. I still am with 4 kids. I'm really trying to find a way to live a simpler life, if you will. Less things, less clutter, less toys, less colors, less labels sitting in my face, just clean surfaces and minimal sort of living. And it sort of helps create an atmosphere with less anxiety when you do that. Yeah. And so I was noticing as
you kind of became a designer then. I mean, really, I think this is what 30 years of t-shirt business does. You you have an eye for design.
Well, the design really started for me even with t-shirt designs. And I guess I humbly, there was a lot more than just a basic t-shirt with alternative. I mean, I think we had 9,000 SKUs that had to be designed, and I designed all of them. So yeah, it was a little bit more of a design thing with alternative. But yes, I consider myself, if I had to describe what is my talent, I'm a designer. That's what I do. Yeah. And so I really am able to take a space like a golf course or a bottle and, design it. And so in this case, MF stands for male, female. I found that there was an open space for products. Usually it's his products or her products. It's not their products. And I think we're living in a time where, we're breaking down the barriers and the walls between the sexes. The Bruce Jenner thing turned to Caitlyn Jenner, turned to, now you can, if you don't feel like a man, you don't have to put that you're a man on your driver's license. You're a woman. So, or you're non-binary. So, we're living in this moment, and I felt there was no brand that was sort of standing for, just shampoo, not his shampoo, not her shampoo, MF shampoo, male/female. The slash sort of represents all the things in between male or female. So it's M/F, MF People. MFpeople.com is the website in which we sell all direct to consumer products, starting with skincare, everyday essential skincare, shampoo, conditioners, face wash, scrubs, eye creams, night creams, serums, that sort of thing, toothpaste. Yeah. And we sort of make it easier for you to get out of the house every day in the sense that, your bathroom is not cluttered with a whole bunch of, purple, yellow, orange, and green bottles. It looks beautiful with this white, cohesive, uniform aesthetic in your bathroom, and then the same thing in your closet. We sort of specialize in white, black, or gray T-shirts and sweatshirts and sweatpants and just comfy stuff that you can sort of throw on and not think about it every day, and you're not living with a whole bunch of extra clutter in your life. That's what we wear. We wear white, black, or gray T-shirts 95% of the time. So I really wanted to.
What I love about that is, and I'm sure we all have this, right? The significant other, wife, husband, or who's like, oh, you need to be using this thing or whatever. But then, they hand you a pink bottle or something, and you're like, I'm not really doing that. But it's like, it's honestly, it's stupid. It's just marketing, right? It's just the branding of the bottle and the marketing. And if we're all predisposed to these, norms that we're like, oh, that makes me uncomfortable. But you're right. Like, maybe I should be using an eye cream because I'm getting bags under my eyes before I'm 30, like, I don't know. Like, and removing and making things more comfortable. Like, I really like that.
Yeah, it's been well received. People really like the products, and it's a matter. I'm building it again, sort of as an infant in this business with a completely different business model, direct to consumer, which I'm not as familiar with that model. It's a new school model for me. I'm an old dog, and so I'm having to relearn sort of the rules of a ever-changing sort of business model today. The direct-to-consumer e-com world is not an easy place to start when you're trying to be a lifestyle brand and not necessarily a product. So I'm really more focused on being a lifestyle brand and less a product company. But I'm having my challenges there because, it's easier to sell products online than it is sort of, this blanketed lifestyle brand perception. So I'm coupling it with some wholesale sales now. We're starting to sell to boutiques and stores, and so hopefully the word will get out that this is great quality stuff, and the MF thing will, when you hear MF, a lot of people think motherfucker, but that was sort of the double entendre, sort of hopefully you remember MF people when you hear it,
Yeah, I mean that's a good segue to my next question. The direct to consumer thing is really interesting. We had from Helix mattresses, we had a guy on, and he basically built a direct to consumer mattress business, and it is its own animal, that model, but there is a lot of, once you crack the egg, there's a lot of advantages there. So talking about old dog, new dog, like, where do you think the future of fashion is going? Right, you've spent all this time in the t-shirt, apparel, now everyday product business, right? Where do you think the future of all this is going?
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, I've sort of been out of the world for 5 years. Not to say that I don't look in. There are a lot of people like me that are trying to break into this direct to consumer, but I do believe coupling it with bricks and mortar locations where people still need to touch and feel the products. So, having the right models, I guess, the business model, where you can sort of have a little bit of both, little outlets like a Warby Parker style, where you can touch and feel the garment. You can then trust in the brand that, oh, you're a medium, or, the fit, or, the color palette or whatever, that you can then turn around and, take your deliveries and not have to have so many retail stores where, we know how tough retail is. Alternative had 4 stores. It was a very small percentage of its business, but it really did help its, it helped tell the story, because when you walk into someone else's, environment like a Nordstrom or an Urban Outfitters or whatever, and they're not telling the story of your brand like you can. You can tell the story of your brand. You can create the brand identity yourself. So if you can couple, I guess, a small bricks and mortar sort of display, even if it's just a shop and shop or something like that for yourself, and couple it with the online experience, I think that's the winning combination today. Yeah. With experiential retail sort of coming in, whether it has a coffee shop inside or a place to hang out and get online with the internet or whatever. I think that doing something a little different today like that is really the winning combination.
Nice. Well, all right. We're going to wrap up here with the Ambition Today question of the day. If you have a question for the pod, go to siskar.co and you can submit it and we will answer it on a future episode. Greg, my question for you is, as someone who bootstrapped a company for 30 years and then finally sold it for $60 million, how do you stick with the grind, right? Some people give up after 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? How do you just stick with it? How do you make it part of your day-to-day life and just go for the ride for so long?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to have passion for what you do, right? If you don't love what you're doing, you're very likely not to be able to make it. You got to love what you do. And I loved what I did for all those years. I still have a passion for it. I always call it we. It's not we anymore. It's they. And so, I think that helps get through a lot of the, right now there's a detachment thing happening where I've had to sort of send off my firstborn into the heavens and wish it for an eternal, life, which I hope it will get now that it's with, in Haynes's hands, and hopefully my grandchildren will see it one day and say, hey, my grandfather did that. They won't know the business, neither will my children, actually, which is sort of sad for me. But loving the business, loving what you do, loving being passionate about, the day-to-day being in the game is a key element. And I think also going with your gut instinct and not listening to every last piece of advice given to you by people that you think know more than you. But at the end of the day, nobody knows your business like you know your business. And I think that people are really quick to take advice from other people. Certainly you can take some advice when you're super young, but when you start to learn your business, every business is different. And every business operates differently. And every business has its own sort of ins and outs and day-to-days. You can create your own kitchen to get the food out, if you will. There's no rules. And so by knowing your business and really understanding your numbers and understanding your operational flow, I think that, there is no formula that is the formula that you must follow. So don't be so quick, I guess, listeners, to change what you're doing, but listen to your own gut instinct and follow your gut, because your gut instinct is right like 99.9% of the time. It's every time I every time I did something I felt didn't really want to do, or I don't like that advice, but that guy knows more than me. Every single time I was sorry I did that. Yeah. And so I think listening to your own gut instinct is something that I would say is a very good thing to adhere to.
I love that. That's a great note. And I think we'll move over to the back channel on that note. If you want to join us on the back channel to hear the single greatest piece of advice Greg has ever received, go to siskar.co/A-lists to sign up and listen to all of the episodes back channels today, starting at $3. As always, the show notes, which include everything from this episode, links to everything we talked about, will be up on the website, siskar.co. Greg, thank you for coming on the podcast today. Where could people go find out more about you or anything else you want to plug? Go for it.
Oh, gosh. I guess they could go to mfpeople.com. That's my newest newborn. There's certainly a lot to find out about the company there, a little bit about me. And I guess Google. You could always Google me, Greg Alterman. You could find out a whole lot, probably stuff I don't even want you to know. But I think that's really sort of what I'm doing today, and focused on that, and just finally getting out of the alternative apparel day to day has been, it's been different. These last few years have been a lot different than my first 30 years in business. And, sort of enjoying a little bit more of a relaxed business grind, I guess you will. It's less of a grind and more of a, more of a slow build at this point.
Well, here's to the next 30 years. So I wish you the best of luck. Well, stay curious, everyone, and we will see you on the next episode of Ambition Today.
Thanks for listening to Ambition Today. Be sure to visit Siskar.co to get all the information from this episode and more great content. Until next time, stay curious, everyone.